Welcome back to the IWI interview series, where we explore recovery, connection, and the conversations that help people build meaningful and lasting sobriety. IWI, which stands for If You Work It, is a free mobile app designed to help people in recovery stay consistent, connected, and supported throughout their recovery journey. Today, we've got Ryan, who is a great friend of mine from LA and someone I've been looking forward to getting on this interview series. Very excited to have you today, Ryan. If you want to maybe just introduce yourself first and give us like a brief summary of why you chose to go down the path of recovery.
Of course, Connor. Hello, I'm Ryan. I'm from Hermosa, Manhattan Beach, California. Reason why I got into sobriety or why I stayed. I've struggled with addiction and that sort of thing for like pretty much my whole drinking and using career. Um, Started off bad, ended bad. That's all I really have to say about that. But I struggled with it for like 5 to 6 years in and out of treatment. Um, Went to New Life. It's a men's structured sober living when I was 19 for a year and a half. Relapsed for 8 months before I was ready to come back into the rooms. Then I went to the Last House men's structured sober living where I figured it out with the help of them. And I'm still sober today.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm familiar with a few guys that went through that program, and I've got to say, it seems like that's got to have one of the highest success rates when it comes to guys actually seeing the program all the way through to the end and then being able to come out and give back and have like solid sobriety. So appreciate you sharing that. I wanted to kick it off with a little bit broader of a question than I've asked in prior interviews. And that is going to be, how do you stay sober? I mean, I think for a lot of us, it has changed over the course of our recovery. And I'm curious today for you, what are the non negotiables when it comes to taking care of your recovery?
Uh, Great question. Well, the thing about recovery is that some people think that like one shoe fits all,
Mhm.
and I don't believe that at all. I believe that it's really different for every single person and how they maintain and continue their own sobriety. Um, for me, there were certain things in the first year that were very important, like calling my sponsor every day, working the 12 steps, getting a routine, and just getting basic life skills that I was able to continue on. And learning those was difficult. Um, but through like, at least at the sober living, through constant bombardment and I wouldn't say consequence, but like reason to show me why it was important was necessary for me to continue staying sober.
Yeah.
I also had to reach like a point in my addiction where I realized it wasn't possible for me to keep even being alive, um, to keep drinking and using. I had to see that the 12 steps and AA and staying sober was literally the only choice that I had,
Yeah.
or death in my case. Some prior background info is that my favorites are alcohol, cocaine, and methamphetamine all together with
Mm.
with a bunch of other things, and that is not sustainable for living a healthy and normal life.
No.
Not that I cared back then, but being in the AA community, being in the sober living community, being around sober people showed me how to live like a proper sober life and the importance of doing so. So I guess I have like 20 months now. It's like what, a year and 8 months. Through the year and 8 months, I've found different things that have helped me personally to continue my sobriety. Um, Now 20 months in, I definitely don't call my sponsor every day. I go to one meeting a week, which suffices for me, one to two. And just clarifying, like AA is not for everyone, you know? There's other ways to stay sober without Alcoholics Anonymous. It's just the only thing that works for me, you know? There's like Celebrate Recovery and some other stuff that other people do. And that if it works for them, then it works for them. But like the certain non-negotiables for me and my sobriety are that I have to have sober friends. I can have non-sober friends. I can date non-soberly. I can date soberly, but for me, the non-negotiables are that I have to have sober friends, at least a circle that I'm of a few close people in my life. I'm not one to have like a million different friends. I like my circle tight, with people that I can be vulnerable with that can help me in my life as I can help them in theirs. I sponsor. I need to have a sponsee at all times so that I can give back what was given to me. And it also helps me center on like my first step, and it helps me work the steps continuously when I'm working the steps with them. That's like one of the biggest ones is having sponsees. Um, one of the sponsees I have right now, he's at the last house, great guy, but like helping him get to where I am helps me stay where I am. You know, another non-negotiable for me is having the best relationship with my family as I can and show up for them when they need me. Um, Financial amends, family vacations, family dinners, constant family contact for me. Um, I was like the worst to my family in my addiction. So like I will forever be paying them back for like the life that I have today
Yeah.
because I feel that I owe my life partly to them. You know, they stayed with me the whole time I was in my addiction. They set strong boundaries, which were hard for them to set. They they did a lot, you know, and I feel that I not that I must, but that I need to like um do whatever I can to show up for them in their lives as they show up in mine.
Yeah.
That's another non-negotiable. Another one, the last one that I'll say is that I need to make sure that the sobriety is worth it per se. Like I need to have fun. You know, like there has to be some sort of like not end goal, but like consistent enjoyment of my life now, you know? Like whether it's in between some life struggles, like my roommate, for example, he's sober. I get to come home from work. I get to vent to him. He understands because he's an alcoholic. And it's easier to go through my day to day when I have somebody close to me who understands. You know, all these things I never thought were possible. You know, like I thought that life was going to be meaningless and boring when I got sober because drugs and alcohol were my life before this, and I couldn't picture a life without them.
Yeah.
Only going through sober living, doing AA, like getting to this point, I'm able to see out of sober living that life is just as fun, if not better. You know, um, it probably is, but it is better. I can say that. That like I go to freaking music festivals. I go to like clubs still and like enjoy myself just without a drink in my hand, you know? If there's a reason to go to the bar to like hang out with a coworker, I'll go, but I'm not gonna go if I'm like fiending for alcohol, you know? Like if there has to be like an important reason to go out with friends that I want to enjoy myself just because I want to enjoy myself. You know, yeah, that's a very important one. I have to check my motives in situations to see if they're like valid or sober aligned. And like there will be instances where I feel like doing some scummy behavior, you know, but like I'll realize that now and call someone about it. Like I'll call you about it. I'll call my sponsor. I'll call my dad, you know, like I'll call these important people that I know will show up for me in my life to tell me when I'm not thinking straight, you know? And then I'll course correct and apply that moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man. One thing I was thinking when you were talking about life without drugs and alcohol and how fun and amazing it can really be is the idea that we're giving up one thing in the drugs and alcohol to potentially get everything, or at least everything back that we
Mhm.
wished we had while we had that one thing still in our lives. And I
Mhm.
think about it that way. It's really easy to be like, well, why wouldn't you just stop drinking or stop doing drugs? And I remember when I was really in, active alcoholism, drinking was a full-time job. So while it was
Yeah.
just one thing technically on paper, it controlled my entire life. And it's such a complex disease that, like, gosh, had I realized how much of an impact it would have on my life, the continuing of the drinking, man, I would have given up that one thing so quickly. But
Yeah.
more I went down that path, the harder it was to crawl out. And I'm definitely really grateful today to not have to have it control my whole life, and have that, as I like to say, full time job of drinking. Uh,
Mhm. I
and there,
completely relate, like, I mean, when people were, like, asking me, like, "Why can't you stop drinking? Why won't you stop drinking? Life is so much better without it." Even sober people that were, like, asking me this question, um, like you said, it was a full-time job and it was tons of work to, like, get my next fix or get my next line or drink or whatever. It was my only reality. I couldn't even picture a life without drugs. Like, up to that point, my whole identity was drugs and alcohol. Like, I wanted to be the best at drinking and doing drugs, like,
right,
there was no I didn't even see the pull of being sober until after I'd been sober for a couple months even, like, I didn't want to be sober. I wanted to do this as long as possible, and there was a point where I was resigned to die to drugs and alcohol because I thought it was the only way for me. And,
mhm,
like, the amount of willingness and effort, even it was like before I was sober, was daunting for me because I tried before, like, I don't even would say that I tried. I did it before and I didn't want it. Like, and that's like the stuff that was going through my head before I got sober. Do I even want this? Like, but it had to get to a point of, like, utter pitiful and, like, the saying, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, like, for me to even think about getting sober, I had to have no options left,
yeah,
literally nothing that I could manipulate my way out of. I couldn't spend any more money. I was out of money. I was out of options. I was pretty much homeless. And, like, still then, I didn't even want to get sober. And I couldn't see a better life for myself.
yeah, that's
Like,
why,
had to do tons and tons of work, not work, but, like, I had to put forth a lot of effort and I had to have the willingness to even think about changing my life before doing so, you know?
the willingness is essential. And like you mentioned, I was given opportunities to go to treatment when I was, 19, 20, but I had zero willingness, like zero. I had convinced myself that I was going to find a way to drink every single day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, it made me feel so good that I couldn't imagine not having it. And ultimately, what it is it's a solution, right? Like, drinking and doing drugs, it's a solution. For me, it was a
Mhm.
solution to the anxiety and the fear that I had about my life.
Yeah.
And it has taken a lot to
Mhm.
replace that with a new solution through the 12 steps, through connection with other people, through connection with a higher power. But I can honestly say, and I never believed this ever, that I would ever feel so full of gratitude and appreciation for life without alcohol, but I really do. Like, I
Mhm.
can't imagine drinking right now. I really can't.
Yeah.
And some days, I'm a lot closer to a drink than I am right now. Like, it makes me like want to throw up thinking about it.
Yeah.
Today it's cool. And this, I want to go back a little bit because you were talking about what I associated with the idea that I think when we get to a point in our sobriety, we learn how to pause before reacting to certain things.
Mhm.
And during that brief moment or two, we can kind of reason with ourselves and, make a call to a friend
Yeah.
or our sponsor or whoever it is, someone that we trust to bounce an idea off.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really important. So I wanted to highlight that
Yeah.
as I've grown in my sobriety, well, it's probably only still a few seconds long that I have that pause.
Mhm.
It's got longer, and I have the ability to pause and think for a second before I make an irrational decision,
Yeah.
and you know, it takes a lot of work to sustain that and to
Yeah.
have
I mean, like, well, in simple terms, it's like a response opposed to a reaction, you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
Like, with a reaction, I'd crash out, I'd
Yeah.
crash out on people, even in early sobriety, especially in early sobriety. I'd crash out on people because I didn't know how to handle a situation the right way. And still to this day, I don't know how to handle it the right way, which is why I call people when I have a problem or
Mhm.
like a struggle, and I respond to it in a healthier way, like a normal person way as opposed to an alcoholic way.
Right. Right. Well said. Kinda on that note, the struggle topic, I want to hear what you have to say about this question, and that question is, what is a hard lesson that you have faced or that you have learned? What is a hard lesson that you have learned in recovery?
I mean, there's so many, but like to choose one, I mean, this applied in my addiction as well. I just didn't care really.
Mhm.
Um, is that my words and actions don't only affect me, but they affect everyone around me as well. You know, like I might be at work and I might be pissed and I might not want to do something for a coworker, but me not wanting to do that thing for my coworker might F up their whole. I work in a restaurant, so it might F up their whole shift, and then, but I'll see that and I'll correct it. Like I'll make a on the spot amends or something to fix it. But my awareness is a lot broader than it was.
Mhm.
Um, now I like to think before making any important decision, making any small decision, just like play out what the decision would do to me, how it would affect my family, how it would affect my coworkers, how it would affect my friends. Like I try not to just think about myself all the time, though I do fall into it, like it's only human, I think. But like, um, yeah, that's the big one. That's the takeaway I'll answer that question with. I do see how it would affect my mom and dad most out of everyone, just because, like I said before, I try to be in their lives as much as possible now. One thing would be like if I don't show up 1 week to visit them or have dinner with them, they'll be like, because they do miss me. They only live in Manhattan Beach. Like I can make it over there, and so like if I don't make it over there, it looks like I'm not making time for them. It might be because I'm busy, but I can always call them and tell them I won't make it this week. Like if I don't have any communication, I don't have like any healthy way of saying that I can't go, they'll assume the worst, just like I assume the worst, like,
Yeah.
um, but I'd like to say I do try to make it over there like 4 times a month at least.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to, I think, sort of offer like a living amends to the people that closest to. I mean, I relate a lot to what you were talking about with your parents in that I know for me, they exerted a lot of energy ultimately to trying to help me,
Mhm.
and they never gave up on me. And I still have some shame and some guilt around that. And I've made amends to them. And I think when it comes to like your parents, especially, or at least for my situation with my parents, I'll never not feel some of that, but I know that the only way I can continue to
Just to stay sober.
is right to take my recovery seriously, to stay sober and, you know, acknowledge when I'm wrong, be communicative with them and just try and be a good person and
Yeah.
make the same
Yeah.
mistakes before.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, man, thank you for answering that. I got one more question for you. It's one that I've been keeping consistent across these interviews, and I'm curious if you have a certain recovery quote, or maybe it's like a concept that you carry with you in your recovery.
I do. I do. I got one. I don't really throw around the quotes of AA, so it's more of a concept, but like, I mean, it's something that I learned through experience and that I keep learning over and over again. Um, Part to do with the last house, part to do with how much effort has been poured into this current sobriety and how much I've gotten out of it, you know? So like the concept itself is that getting sober was the literally the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Getting and staying sober. That first year, brutal. It's worth it, but okay, the full concept is if I can get sober, I can literally do anything that I set my mind to. You know? Like that getting sober, there was a lot of pain involved. There was a lot of doing things I really didn't want to do, but knowing that it would do things in the long run. Um, when you have something that you have to do and you know it's not going to do anything in the short term, it's really hard to get jumped on it. You know, like it's really hard to start. But knowing and seeing other people have enjoyable sober lives with time, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 1 year, like 10 years, you know, seeing it work in someone else's life gave me the motivation to try it out in my own life. I also had nothing to lose when I got sober, you know, like the only thing worse than where I was in my addiction, I was in this like purgatory state. The only thing worse than that was continued purgatory or death, you know? So like I had everything to gain and nothing to lose, you know? So I poured my all into it when I realized that, like, for me, I can't really have a beer anymore, you know? Like, I can't just have 3 beers at the bar. Like, and it was never that case, to be honest, bro. Like, the first time I drank, I blacked out, you know? And it stayed that way until I got sober. So, like, I just don't see the point. It's also like I can't, even if I try, you know? I can't go to the bar. I can't have 3 beers. If I get a single beer in me, I want a bag. I want to go hard. I want to burn it all to the ground,
Yeah,
regardless if that's the intention or not. I just want to stay up for days and party, you know? It may be by myself, it may be with people. This is a roll of the dice, you know, you never know. But I have too much to lose now to even think about doing that, you know? Like there was a point 3 months in, like, so I relapsed twice at the last house. I didn't really care, but it took that second relapse to because it was such a fast progression. It was literally a 1 day relapse. I knew that I had a problem. I didn't care. I went out to drink and I ended up smoking crystal meth with homeless people,
yeah,
you know? So like, and that was a matter of 3 hours. So like, it took a couple weeks in detox to get my head straight and realize that there is no shot for me drinking, you
yeah,
know? And keeping that close in mind throughout my sobriety, like when I go to a meeting, I see a newcomer share, it reminds me of how freaking desperate I was before, you know? Like it brings me back to that point of desperation where I know what would happen if I were to go out or even try it, you know? Like when I've tried smoking weed, I've tried drinking just beer, I've tried drinking just vodka, I've tried just Four Locos, I've tried just, you know, like I've tried just one thing, but it always leads to the next thing.
yeah,
Like I tried smoking weed for a little bit,
yeah.
but when I smoke weed, I want to drink, and when I drink, I want to do cocaine, and
Right.
meth is cheaper than cocaine. So like, it's a horrible progression. It literally, like for me, and then when I'm up too long on stimulants, I want to smoke some heroin, bro. Like I want to do some fentanyl. I've never done that stuff, but like can't sleep. Xanax doesn't work. Percocet, nothing. I need something strong. I will die. And that's just like what I keep in my head because there are times in sobriety when I feel the pull of a drink, it's usually in a stressful period or like, I'm pissed off about something. I'm like, damn, I could really use a drink right now, but I know I'll die and this isn't worth dying over. So like, um, I wouldn't say that I'm solid in my sobriety, like super solid. It's always going to be a work in progress. And there are better periods and worse periods. But whenever I'm feeling the pull of something, I will either call you, I'll call my sponsor, I'll hit a meeting, I'll write a gratitude list, I'll go read my non AA book and just meditate for a little bit on my thinking, where it was, where it is now, and what I can do to cope
Yep.
without drugs and alcohol. I'll go to the gym. That'll help me cool off a lot. Um, and then surprisingly, not even surprisingly, but if I don't go to the gym, I'll feel discontent, like it's
Same.
like a healthy stress reliever. And if I don't do that, then I'll be stressed. But it's all about like now, it's not even like when I get stressed, sometimes I won't even think about drinking, bro. Like it doesn't come to my mind. Like it's just, I want to go like weep in my room, like I want to go punch something. But the first thought is not that I want a beer, it's not that I want to do Coke. It's like, which is unfathomable to me. Like I never thought that would be the case. Like I would get mad at the crossing guard for taking too long when I was trying to take a right on the street and I'd go drink over that, like it's just a different mindset, like a different perception, which is the goal of AA, like that's what they try to switch your mindset and they have. So like goal achieved, but on to the next. Getting sober is literally like what we were talking about, hitting the baseline of being a normal person,
Right.
like the rest is for you to figure out with help. Obviously, I need help to do it. Like I can't do it without a community, which is very important. Like I can't do it alone. I would for sure relapse if I was alone. But the community helps, the habits help, the healthy coping skills help, the hobbies, the fun, the good life, the good parents, good friends. Like there's so much more in my life that matters now that
Mhm.
I had no concept of when I was drinking,
Right.
Like my friends were all scumbags. We just were using each other to pay for beer, pay for drugs, and that was it.
Yep.
I stole from my friends, they stole from me, and I didn't care as long as they had more drugs. And now I have quality friends that I can tell people, like tell things in confidence and they won't tell other people. And they ask me for help too, like we've exchanged our own struggles and solved them together, like
Yep.
it's just a different playing ground, like life's just different now.
Life is different,
That's
man.
it, bro.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming on, brother. Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me on, IYWI. Go download the app.
Boom. Love it.
Of
All right. Thank you.
course.